Hello, welcome to today's edition of Pegasus Test. On today's edition, we are covering how do you get to the Falklands? Man, I have been asked this question a lot since Ian from Forgotten Weapons and Yari from Varostaleka and I went on a recreation of 45 Commando's Great Yawp across the Falklands. The first thing you got to do is figure out what you're going to do in the Falklands, and this is not a spur of the moment. Matter of fact, you need to do your planning quite a bit in advance, and we had been actively planning this trip for over a year and a half, believe it or not. Part of that is when our schedules would allow it, but also there's a lot of groundwork you need to do before you go. One of the resources I suggest you reach out to is Penguin Travel down in the Falklands. Easy to find. Google Penguin Travel, boom, comes right up. Or Google Travel Falkland Islands, boom, they come right up as one of your options. They can be very helpful in what they can do, but they can't do everything for you if your purpose is to recreate the Great Yawp. If that's why you want to go there, you have to do a lot more homework. If you just want to go there and see the penguins, which I highly recommend you do, they're super cool. Also, if you just want to do battlefield tours, i.e. you want somebody to take you out to the battlefields, walk you around, also a thing I highly recommend you do, that's tours they can set up. If you just want to go down there and enjoy nature, they can definitely help you with tours like that. If you want to create the Yawp, you're a little bit more on your own. We'll get into that later. Now, wherever you're sitting in the world, you have to get there. And there's two ways to do it. Actually three, but two main ones. The two main ones involve air travel. The third involves ocean travel. Air travel, only two possible ways to get there. Way one, it's called the Airbridge. It's run by the RAF out of RAF Bryce Norton in the UK down to RAF Mount Pleasant in the Falklands. You have to reach out to the Falklands Islands government through their website. You can find that on the Falkland Islands Tourist Board. You can find the links there about how to get there in their section. And basically, you months in advance tell them you're interested in doing this, tell them when you want to go. They'll send you a bunch of information that they need from you about why you're going, who you are, information, passport requirements, because you have to have a passport at least 6 months validity on it before you go, and other such requirements. So I really, really strongly suggest about 4 to 6 months out is when you're doing this. If you go that route, then and you put in your application, it's literally an application to be on an RAF flight. You then get a thing back from them telling you when the flights are, what's available, and what the cost will be and how you pay. You have to send money by wire transfer. You just don't put your credit card in and do this. Once they receive your payment, a little bit of time will go by, and they will come back and confirm, hey, you're accepted, you're approved on these flights. This is when you need to show up at RAF Bryce Norton. These are the timelines you think. These are your baggage restrictions that you have. And you have to take that into account because they are a little different than the regular scheduled airlines restrictions. And everything you have to do being on an RAF base. You will then, if you take that route, you will show up at RAF Bryce Norton. You will go through their check-in, get a temporary base pass. They will take you to the terminal. At the terminal, you will then properly check in for the flight. And then once you're there, you will wait for hours, unfortunately, until they do their equivalent of our TSA, where they search your bag, you take your belt off, shoes off. Yes, you do all that stuff to get on an RAF craft. Also, they have a small convenience store there, but that's it. No real restaurant, no bar, which is unfortunate. Being British, you'd think they would. But I digress. But once you go through their version of the TSA check, then you sit in another waiting room until they will call out row sections and escort you out to the aircraft. You have to pay attention here because they, again, do not do it in the manner of which you would, say, a conventional airline. Conventional airline will call either sections of seats, like seats 1 through 10, seats 11 through 20 can now board, or zone 1 now boarding, zone 2 now boarding, whatever, boarding group 3 now boarding. They don't do it that way. They'll just call out a set of seat numbers in no particular order. Like, oh, seats 1 through 7 are boarding now. Then there's seats 31 through 40 are boarding now. Oh, seats 11 through 15 are boarding now. And there was no rhyme or reason to which boarding group they called. So you have to be paying attention for when they call, because you might think, oh, they just called 1 through 10. I'm in seat 28. I got time. Like, no, you don't. You might be the next one called. Then it's pretty much like any airline. You're flying on a Royal Air Force tanker aircraft, and it's pretty much set up and configured like your standard passenger aircraft, late 90s, early 2000s. Conventional seat layout, actually pretty decent room per seat. They have a row of television monitors down the center line, and they actually do show some entertainment. You watch whatever movie they put on, and you watch it when they put it on. You then land at Ascension Island for 2 hours while they refuel and reprovision the aircraft. You're walked about 200 meters to a little area that's fenced in, a couple picnic tables, small little store where you can buy a snack and recharge your phone, and you're only there for 2 hours. You're not going anywhere. You can't do anything. And then they watch you back out to the aircraft, and they fly you down to Mount Pleasant. It's a fairly comfortable flight. Like I said, there was good room in the seats, better than on a lot of airlines these days. They have 2 food services. While they don't serve any alcohol, the portions are generous. And the only flight I've ever been on where after they've done the food service, they walk back around saying, hey, we have extras if anybody wants seconds. I've never heard that happening before. So that was good. The food was pretty good for airline food too. And then you arrive at RAF Mount Pleasant. And then if you've worked with Penguin Travels, they have a coach there that will arrange to pick you up and take you wherever you've made your lodging reservation. Now the second way to get down there is via LATAM, and that's a commercial flight. And you can literally log into Expedia, Orbitz, LATAM's website, hell, even United because they interline with them, and just say, I want to go from wherever I live to Mount Pleasant Airport. MPN is their airport, 3-letter airport IATA code. From there, you can just buy your ticket, and it'll route you however it needs to route you. That's how we ended up having to come back. And the reason for that was, instead of returning on the Airbridge, was the day after we got our confirmation for the return flight that, yes, we were in fact manifested on the flight, and the RAF said, yes, you can fly on our airplane, which was really nice since we were already there and we did want to go home. The day after they said, oh, it's too windy, we can't safely fly down there, and canceled the aircraft, which led to lots of jokes of us making, because while the day it was canceled, it was indeed incredibly windy, and it seemed like, oh, well, that's understandable. The next 4 days the next 3 days till our flight were almost dead calm, and some days I was even walking around in a t-shirt. But, well, glad the RAF was safe. The thing that sucked about that is they politely told us, hey, we've re-manifested you, so your flight that was supposed to leave on Friday will leave on Tuesday, so you're going to spend an extra 4 days in the Falklands. That did not work out for me for business purposes, nor did it work out for Ian and Yari for that. So we booked ourselves on Alan, Chile, LATAM, and it was actually fairly easy to do. We just had to get on Expedia. For some reason, only Expedia would show us the flights. Orbitz wouldn't, Kayak wouldn't, but Expedia showed us the flights. Warning, this was a little bit difficult because internet in the Falklands sucks. Yeah, it's early 90s dial-up speeds basically, and that's being generous. But once we got able to log in and purchase the thing, it was just like purchasing any other flight. Just like if I was to say, hey, I want to fly from Dulles to Las Vegas, got online and bought a ticket. It was the same way. Those were civilian flights, even though they also land at Mount Pleasant. You show up early, just like you do for the RAF, about 4 to 5 hours prior to your flight. The loading was pretty efficient. It's a 2.5 hour flight from Mount Pleasant to Punta Arenas in Chile. And that's where the fun begins, because we were told, our boarding pass told us for our first flight, said we were getting on Mount Pleasant. It was all the way to Santiago, Chile. And we get to Punta Arenas, and when we're getting on the aircraft, we think, okay, we get there, and it's like, hey, you got to stay on the aircraft while we refuel and let people off that are staying in Punta Arenas or otherwise. But if you're just going on through, you stay on the aircraft. Then it was, no, actually you have to deplane. Okay, fine. And then we have to go through Chilean immigration, and they start asking us for all these forms to be filled out. When we were told we were passing through, we don't have to fill these out. Nope, you have to fill these out. You can't pass go unless you do. So stop, fill out all the forms. There's standard forms you go into any country. And then we're told, well, you have to go to baggage claim and get your bag back and then place it on the customs thing so it can be rescanned and go on to the flight up to Santiago, even though it's the exact same airplane. Okay, so we're in baggage claim. We wait, and then somebody comes out and informs us that, oh yeah, it's so windy outside, we can't unload the aircraft, so you just need to go reboard. And I'm like, oh, okay. Go around, go through another customs checkpoint, try to go through the security checkpoint to get on the flight. They won't let us on because our boarding pass says Mount Pleasant to Santiago, and we're in Punta Arenas, and unless we get a Punta Arenas, this guy will not let us go. All right, well, we run to the kiosk to get another boarding pass. Won't accept our booking code because, well, our booking never included Punta Arenas. Finally, we found somebody from LAN Chile that would be sympathetic and would willingly speak English. I'm saying that word. Not couldn't speak English, willingly would speak English. And issued us new boarding passes, kind of indicated that, yeah, the guy turning away, that's his kind of little power trip. And we go up there with our boarding passes, of which he says, thank you, in perfect English. And then we go through as they're calling our flight to board. Matter of fact, the distinct words were final boarding call. And then they make us go through the whole security with take your backpacks off, take the computers out, take your belt off, take your shoes off, that whole 9 yards. Got through that, literally running down the corridor as the door to the plane was about to close. All this happened in a little under 2 hours. The one thing when we found out we were getting off Punta Arenas, it's like, oh, cool, we can get some food because they didn't serve any on the plane. No, that didn't freaking happen. And then we took a 3-hour flight to Santiago on LAN Chile, which, again, they served a little bag of popcorn and some sodas, and that was it, no food. And we get to Santiago with 2 hours to get to our flight back to Houston, and checked through their arrival there, finding out that our flight is in a completely different terminal on the other side of a highway, getting over there, getting to check into that flight, getting new boarding passes, and then the ridiculously long security line, and be informed by the check-in ladies at United Airlines that, yeah, you better get moving because your flight leaves in 50 minutes and it takes about an hour to get through the line. And she did not lie. Got through the line, literally as I was hearing the flight being called again. And again, it was take everything out of your bags, take your shoes off, take your belts off, and all that and stuff. Literally just shoving everything back in my backpack when I was done. Even put my belt around me without putting it through the loops. Running down the hallway because when I saw where my gate was, there was a sign saying it was 10 minutes away. Ran at full tilt buggy with my carry-on and stuff, and I got to my plane. And going down the jetway literally as they were calling my boarding group, just to be searched in the jetway again. So why am I telling this long tale of woe is just the LAN Chile option. The layovers, 2 hours, you think that's great. Now that's barely minimum time. You should probably try to set up your flights where you have 3-hour layovers and maybe even a little longer. Also, had we chosen to go down via LAN Chile, we would have had day layovers, probably a day layover in Santiago and probably 6 or more hours in Punta Arenas. So while a little bit easier to book on LAN Chile, and though if you're getting on the RAF flight, you at least know you're going to fly. Now, some other things to get into. You need to coordinate with a travel agent down in the Falklands to be able to effectively get around and do things. The Falklands are a very remote place in the world, and they work on their own thing. They are islands, and they work on island time down there, just like they do in the Caribbean or in the South Pacific. So things take a lot of planning, and things you'll be worried about, they're not so worried about. And things you're like, oh, I gotta go fast, and they're like, it'll work out. And it generally does. But you need to have your things planned out that'll make life a lot easier for you. You also need to leave some flexibility in your schedule, because on an average day in the Falkland, you will experience all 4 seasons. And I can tell you on one day, I was walking on that yamp in whether where a t-shirt like this was entirely appropriate, and an hour later I'm in my wet weather gear in a hailstorm, and an hour after like that the wind's blowing so hard I'm watching Ian and Yari march in front of me leaning into port 5 degrees to counter the wind. So you have to have flexibility on the things you can do, and if you can't do it on one day, you have to be prepared to do it the next day. If you want to recreate the Great Yawp to get the most out of it, become a history book. The books on the conflict are your friends, and you have to definitely work with the travel agencies down there. Again, we work with Penguin Travel, but there are a couple of different ones you can pick from, and you have to let them know exactly what they want to do, because most people don't go down and recreate the Yawp. So they can get you a battlefield tour, they can get you a place to see the penguins, but actual Yawping, they can't help you coordinate it, but they can give you points of contact to reach out to. Important thing to remember about the Falklands, every square inch of the land down there is privately owned. There's no public land. So if you go to Port San Carlos, that's someone's farm you start out at. And as you walk all the way to Stanley, even if you're following the road, you are actually on people's property, unless you're physically on the road. And you have to respect that, and they expect it to be respected. Now, we found most of the people in the Falklands to be beyond courteous and helpful people, and especially when they found out what we were doing, they were more than encouraging. But you have to respect their property and be respectful and good, and be good stewards of what they allow you to do. Now, if you just want to go, hey, look, doing the Great Yawp is way more than I want to do. I have no desire to carry a heavy rock across an island just to do it. I can totally understand. But you do want to see the battlefields. Well, the battlefield tours are an advantage to do, because they will have locals that were either there during the battle, are veterans of the battle, or very knowledgeable people that have done these tours so much and they know where everything is, that they can tell you things about the battles that you may know from the books, but if you just walked up, for instance, Mount Longdon on your own, you'd never know where some of these things were or how the battle progressed. Matter of fact, one of the particulars we did was Mount Harriet. We had our tour guide, who was a Royal Marine, not during the conflict, but he was very knowledgeable of it. He is a member of the FIDF, so he's in the area a lot, and he knew everything about it, and he walked us the exact course that K Company 42 Commando did when they assaulted Mount Harriet, and his base of knowledge made that day a day well spent up on the mountain. The tours, the people are very reasonable. The tours are very reasonably priced. The locals take care of you. Most tours pick you up about 9 o'clock in the morning. You're out all day. They pack a lunch for you. The food is excellent. You have to dress for the weather conditions, so bring warm clothing, bring wet weather clothing. You can one moment I should say be standing there in a bright sunny day, and the next moment being rained on pretty hard, and you have to be prepared for it. The wind is a thing down there, and it's always there. Flat and calm are not usual conditions in the Falklands. But if you do all your planning and homework in advance, you will have a wonderful time, and it will be well worth the experience. We hope you found this video about how to get to the Falklands helpful and informative. Please comment, like, and subscribe. Tune in for future travel videos.